Alright, so this one we're switching up a bit from more performance enhancing drugs and we're going into more uh, psychoactive drugs because I also find these pretty interesting, and that's another thing that I love to talk about. And this one, we're just going to talk about nicotine, which is a very popular drug, a very popular psychoactive drug, super normalized, and a lot of people use it, including myself. But we're going to get more in on that, and I'll talk a bit about my experience and just a full overview, and then we're even going to discuss the whole argument for it being a nootropic. So, first thing that we have to understand is the characteristics of this compound and like what it does and how it works. So, we all know that nicotine's a stimulant and a cholinergic agonist, which means it pretty much binds to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, or that's the abbreviation NACHRS, and it's going to stimulate a release of dopamine and norepinephrine, and then also acetylcholine. And so I'm talking about these neurotransmitters here: dopamine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine. And the first thing that I want to do is kind of just tell you a bit about some of the neurotransmitters, just so we can get a better understanding for nicotine. So the first one is dopamine, and that neurotransmitter is responsible for reward and motivation. Then we got serotonin. This one isn't super affected by nicotine, so it's not really relevant, but I still just want to give some brief understandings on different neurotransmitters. So this one is responsible for mood, appetite, and sleep. Norepinephrine, this one is alertness, attention, and your stress response. GABA, this one's affected by alcohol, in case you didn't know. That calms your neural activity, regulates anxiety, and causes sedation. So that's obviously why you get inebriated when you drink, because alcohol is hitting GABA or ethanol, the actual compound. Now acetylcholine, which is affected by nicotine: learning, memory, arousal, and attention. And oxytocin, just another one: bonding, trust, and social behavior. So now getting back, I want to talk about as it's used. So there's a ton of ways, obviously, of using nicotine. My go-to is pouches, but you know, people smoke, vape, patches, lozenges, whatever it is. So first, nicotine is going to get absorbed, and then it's going to cross your blood-brain barrier, which then it's going to bind to those nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. And once it binds, the neurotransmitters are going to be released. So dopamine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and then maybe like acute amounts of some other ones. And this is going to lead to a blood pressure and heart rate increase, which we're going to talk about benefits and drawbacks later on, but that's just what happens. The receptors, the NACHRS receptors, will temporarily become inactive even when nicotine is still bound to them, which pretty much causes your brain to upregulate the number of NACHRS receptors, because pretty much whenever you take a drug of any sort, your brain doesn't exactly like it, and your brain wants to maintain homeostasis, which is a nice balance for survival. So anytime you use a drug, your brain is going to have a response of like upregulating, downregulating to kind of balance it out. And that's how tolerance is built. And so an example of this is obviously GABA. People who are alcoholics, the reason why GABA has deadly withdrawals is because taking a drug that interferes with GABA and it causes sedation and stuff. So your brain will then increase stuff like glutamate to try and balance it out. So alcohol over a long use of time, or benzos or whatever it is that works on GABA, pretty much hopping off super fast can cause stuff like seizures because there's so much glutamate. So the main thing I really wanted to discuss is this whole new argument that it is pretty new, but nicotine as a nootropic. And I kind of wanted to share my opinion on this. So, a nootropic is a drug that's used to enhance memory or other cognitive functions. Like alcohol would definitely not be a nootropic, but caffeine could be considered one, and by definition, nicotine could as well. So, now I really just want to talk on, is it a good nootropic? Because everybody's saying these benefits, but they're not really looking at all the drawbacks. So I'm going to share some of the drawbacks from my personal experience to actually give you my argument on this point that, nicotine is nootropic, which, spoiler, I think is the dumbest shit ever. I think it's so fucking stupid. But the pros, it increases your attention. It increases reaction time, memory, learning speed. Nicotine has been shown to be a good thing for ADHD because it releases dopamine, and people with ADHD have below baseline dopamine. And then there's also some studies that show it may boost hippocampal long-term potentiation, which is memory formation. And now the cons, I think they honestly severely outweigh the pros. But those are the pros that people usually argue for nicotine. And I can't stress enough how fucking stupid it is when I see people talking about hopping on nicotine for nootropic effects. It's the dumbest thing you could do. And the first one is addiction. Nicotine addiction is absolutely horrible. I'm 100% addicted to it, and I'm trying to stop. And I'm pretty much on day 3 of my plan of trying to stop. And that first morning that I didn't have it, the brain fog was horrible. I could barely focus, and I was craving it. And it's just, though you get some pretty bad withdrawals from nicotine. So that's the one thing. And people always say that they'll use nicotine only when they need it, and they'll use it as a tool. And I once said that, and I thought that, but it's honestly complete bullshit, because it's so addictive. It's so easy to just spiral it out of control and start using it more and more, and then before you know it, you're in a deep addiction, which costs a lot of money. So it's just absolutely retarded saying that you're going to use nicotine as a tool, because you might in the beginning. I did in the beginning, but it will not turn out that way, and you will get addicted. And then all the other cons that I'm going to talk about are then going to happen. The dependence, that is entirely one. I use nicotine to do almost anything and everything. So not having it, you really have to use discipline. Withdrawals, obviously. And then diminishing returns as well. Is people say that they're going to use it as a tool, but as soon as it spirals, nicotine's diminishing returns happen so fucking fast you will not believe. When I started first using it 2 years ago, that shit felt like Adderall. I would be able to lock in, I would be able to focus, get shit done. It was super effective at focus. Literally felt like Adderall or Vyvanse or something like that, which I would honestly advise you use for focus and for getting stuff done over nicotine, because before you know it, those benefits do not happen, and you just need it to stay at baseline and to feel normal, because then as soon as you stop using nicotine, you start falling below because your brain is so used to it. So it has diminishing returns. It does not keep working forever once you get addicted, which is why I think it's so stupid as a nootropic. And then also it leads to cardiovascular harm, because you're constantly throughout the day spiking blood pressure and heart rate, and then it's dropping, and then you're spiking it, and then it's dropping. Or if you use it throughout the whole day, it's staying elevated. And that's pretty much it. That's why I think nicotine is a completely stupid nootropic. Use something else if you need to focus. Honestly, use any fucking ADHD stimulant if you can get it. That would be way better, because nicotine just is not worth it. It's a horrible nootropic. You'll get addicted. The cons severely outweigh the pros. So that's pretty much my thing on nicotine. I might do this again and go more in depth and maybe bring up some like clips where people preach its benefits and stuff like that. But that's this is just a short little thing on what I think about it. So thank you.